Good day and welcome to each of you, our brothers and sisters from the 8th Congressional District. I am David Ross, President of the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber, the Duluth News Tribune, and the Playhouse Theater are partnering to bring you this candidate forum this morning. Our efforts today are fortified by the Speak Your Peace Civility Project offered by the Duluth Superior Community Foundation. Representatives from the Peace Project are here to urge all of us in this theater to communicate in a respectful and effective way. Fortunate to have Chuck Frederick, the talented editorial page editor of the Tribune, partner with me to moderate the discussion this morning. Chuck will share with us now how we will proceed with the rest of the forum.
Thank you, David, very much. I appreciate the compliment. The purpose of the forum is twofold. The most important purpose is to inform the electorate. We have very important decisions to make on November 8th, and our goal is to try to share as much information about the candidates and the issues as we can. From the News Tribune standpoint, there's a second purpose. Our editorial board is here, and this forum will contribute toward our endorsement decisions that we make. I want to just welcome everyone who's here in attendance, everyone watching online. Each of the candidates will be answering a series of questions that David and I will ask. There will be no questions taken from the audience this morning. The candidates will be given 1 minute to answer. Our timekeeper is in the front row, and she'll hold up signs that indicate how much time you gentlemen have left and when your time is up. We'll offer each of the candidates 30-second rebuttals to the questions. We ask those in attendance, please no outbursts. Please silence your cell phones. Please no signs. I don't think anyone brought signs in. We probably caught you on the way in. A few minutes ago, we flipped a coin to determine who would speak first this morning and to determine who would have the final say. At the end, the campaign of Mr. Mills won the coin flip and chose to have the final word at the very end. So with that said, we'll start things off with a 1 and a half minute introduction. And Congressman Nolan, we'll start with you, sir.
Thank you, Chuck. I'd like to begin by thanking the great Duluth News Tribune and the great Chamber of Commerce, best chamber anywhere in the country, Mr. Mills, and of course everybody here, and most importantly the voters of the 8th Congressional District who have given me the great honor and the great privilege to represent them in Washington, D.C. I'd like to begin with a little advice my father gave me. When he learned I was considering public service, he said, "Son, if you just do a couple things, I'll always be proud of you." He said, "Number one, be honest." He said, "Number two, I work for the common good, for the working men and women in this country. They want champions, they need champions, they deserve champions in Washington, D.C. So I wake up every single day planning what can my staff and I do for the people of Minnesota's 8th Congressional District to protect and to create good jobs, to protect Social Security, Medicare, people's pensions, to protect and enhance the way of life that brought us to this 8th Congressional District that we love so much. I'm proud of the fact that the work that we have done has been recognized nationally and locally. National groups recognizing me as one of the most respected members of the Congress for my integrity. And secondly, local groups as well as national groups recognizing my effectiveness as Minnesota's most effective member of Congress, the second most effective Democrat in Washington, and one of the 10 most effective Democrats in the country. I'm proud of that work, proud of that support. Ask the voters to please consider me to allow to continue to go forward fighting for the people in the 8th District of Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mills.
Thank you. Equally, I would like to thank the Chamber, the Duluth News Tribune, Congressman Nolan, and the audience for being here. But elections are about choices, and we have a choice in front of us. And this choice is who is best fit to represent our values, our ideals, and our priorities in Washington, D.C. Congressman Nolan is F-rated by the National Rifle Association. Congressman Nolan voted for a carbon tax that would absolutely put our part of Minnesota out of business. The #1 expense in iron mining, taconite production, and paper production is energy. Also, 40% of everything that goes through the Port of Duluth is energy. It's carbon. It's eerily similar to Hillary Clinton's we're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business. Also, Congressman Nolan supports Obamacare as a great first step to a government-run single-payer system. Congressman Nolan has also voted in support of the Iranian nuclear deal, an Iranian nuclear deal which now has funded terrorism. Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. The money we sent them now has proven to go to fund terrorists and has put Iran on a glide path to a nuclear weapon. Congressman Nolan also wants to close Guantanamo Bay. We're still at war, folks. We should not be bringing those people here to our soil or releasing them. The recidivism rate for Guantanamo Bay inmates is almost a third. And we just last week have found out 2 more have returned to terrorism. So there's a difference between Congressman Nolan and myself. Positions matter. Philosophy matters.
First question, and this is for Mr. Mills. Jobs. Duluth is a port city and a railroad town. We are interested in how you will protect transportation-related jobs in the 8th District.
Well, no, you're entirely right, and that was in my opening remarks. Jobs is absolutely huge, and it's a huge part of our campaign, and the issues of making sure that we have a true all-of-the-above energy policy. That includes pipeline. Certainly the lack of pipelines, whether it is the Enbridge Sandpiper pipeline or the Keystone XL pipeline, which has effectively been rerouted. I should say Keystone's been killed. Enbridge has been rerouted around the state of Minnesota, costing us millions of potential dollars in tax revenue. But no, jobs. We need an all-of-the-above energy policy. Our part of Minnesota runs on energy, and we need to make sure that we have cheap, clean, affordable energy to make sure that we're able to keep and build the paper-making jobs and the taconite-producing jobs that we have, and also make sure the Port of Duluth can remain viable. Because if 40% of everything goes through the Port of Duluth is coal, is carbon, and we have Congressman Nolan voting in favor of a carbon tax, effectively, if that was ever passed into law, it would put our part of Minnesota out of business.
Thank you. Representative Nolan, same question.
Yeah, thank you for that very, very good question. I sought a seat on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee because I know how important it is. In addition to the legislative work, amendments and bills that I've passed more than virtually anybody else in the Congress, I've worked closely with the agencies, helped get $10 million to build new docks here at the port, $10-12 million to get new runways at the airport, $12-13 million for a new intermodal transportation system, $1.5 million to do a feasibility study to rebuild the locks at the Sioux Narrows. That's our access to the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway, vital. I'm proud of the fact that mining executives in this region, as well as steel workers, miners, tradesmen, have endorsed my campaign. They say nobody has done more for mining in this entire nation than Rick Nolan. In fact, the chairman of Cliffs Natural Resource say it was Rick Nolan's work that gave us the confidence to go ahead and put 1,000 new miners back to work at Forbes, at Eveleth, at Babbitt, at Silver Bay. It was Rick Nolan's work, he said, that persuaded them to invest another $65 million in new mining technology. I'm proud of the work that I've done, the success that we've had, and I want to continue that work, and that's why I ask for your support in this election contest.
Well, when it comes to jobs, Congressman Nolan was reelected in 2012. He went to Washington, D.C. knowing that our mining communities and mining families faced challenges. Rather than going right to work for them, he went on the Sunday morning shows and called for gun control, telling us that we shouldn't have semi-automatic rifles of a certain cosmetic composition, and then also having the government tell us how many bullets we can have in our gun. That wasn't his first choice. We had 2,000 laid-off iron miners before Congressman Nolan started the process of making sure that we had the countervailing tariffs that we needed, so we had some breathing room. But that was only 1/3 of what we needed to do.
Well, what I said on CBS was I didn't need an assault rifle to shoot a duck, and I don't. But more importantly, Mr. Mills, you've constantly referred to me as a professional politician. I went to the International Trade Commission and testified more than any other member of Congress once this crisis started. I didn't see you there, I went before Commerce to expedite the proceedings. I didn't see you there. I brought the President's Chief of Staff out here to hear firsthand how devastating this was on our communities. I didn't see you there. The work that I've done secured tariffs and duties as high as 500% on cheap subsidized steel. We have seen a decline in it. We've seen an increase in ore prices. We have seen an increase in steel consumption and steel use in this country. And we have put our mining back on track on the road to recovery. And that's why there's 1,000 people going to work.
I would like to have just 3 real quick rebuttal points. First of all, what you said is that assault rifles should be banned. You said that in the Sunday morning programs. It's all over the internet. The second thing is you kept saying you didn't see me there, you didn't see me there. I wasn't the elected representative. That's an unfair attack.
Well, you know what? It's not an unfair attack, because I tell you what, most of the people testifying there were not politicians. They were not members of Congress. They were private sector businessmen, laborers, and community leaders who saw trouble. They saw something that needed to be done, and they wrote letters, they appeared, they gave testimony, and you were not there, my friend.
And one last...
Okay, and then we'll move on.
Well, no, this isn't on guns.
I thought the question was about jobs.
This one is on jobs. I talk to people all over the Iron Range. There still is people getting pink slips. Over at Magnetation, there's a lot of people that have gotten their warn notices. The economy on the Iron Range has not improved, and the people that have been called back to work, some of that is due to the fact that a mine has closed down over in Michigan. So it isn't a net gain.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. We'll move on. Next question.
Next question, I remind the audience again to please refrain from clapping, from outbursts. Next question has to do with the national debt and annual deficits. Is spending in Washington is out of control, as some are constantly claiming? Congressman Nolan, we'll begin with you.
Well, the deficits that we have been witnessing are unsustainable. And there's a lot of ways that can be tackled. My opponent would suggest we give super millionaires and billionaires more tax breaks. Well, that only adds to the deficit. All the fact checkers have said that. That are irrefutable facts. Secondly, we need to change our priorities in this country. One of my personal missions is to stop these endless wars and this so-called nation building abroad that is bankrupting this country and causing so many difficulties. It's time that, and it's so costly in treasury and in blood, it's time that we take that energy, take that money, and use it to start rebuilding America and balancing our budget.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, on spending and debt?
Well, first of all, our number one challenge is growing the economy. Right now, the Obama presidency is competing for either the third or the fourth worst economy in U.S. history. We have 1.25 economic... Hey, our economic growth last quarter was 1.25%. Before that, it was 1.5%. That is not a growing economy. What we need to do is we need tax and regulatory reform. I'm not talking about giveaways to Wall Street or multi-billionaires. What I'm talking about is Main Street tax relief. And what I'm talking about is making sure we have a true all-of-the-above energy policy to make sure that we can be competitive on the world stage. So, no, I am somebody that is for economic growth, but we are not engaged in the cycle of economic growth right now. Nobody can say that we are. A matter of fact, we have the lowest workforce participation rate since the first time Congressman Nolan was in Congress back in the 70s. If you want the Jimmy Carter years, we're reliving them.
Congressman Nolan, 30 seconds if you'd like it.
Well, you know, the fact is, you referred to the work that I've done on behalf of mining as a dog and pony show. Mm-hmm. Don't tell that to the 1,000 workers that just went back to work. No dog and pony show for them. That's their livelihood. They couldn't be more pleased. And to be sure, there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I was on the phone last week with U.S. Steel and talking about Granite City steel production and talking about Keewatin. And they're keeping both of those. They're keeping that steel mill open. They're keeping all the workers ready because they like what they see happening, and they have plans. They have plans to open up Keetac and to reopen up the mill at Granite City for steel production. Like I said, everything is not perfect, but it's all heading in the right direction as a result of the work
but
that
people are
my
still
staff
getting
and I
pink
have
slips.
done. Pardon?
But people are still getting their pink slips. People are still unemployed.
Well, what's happened, you know, at Magnetation, is something that, and SR steel is something that's different than what's happening in the marketplace. That has to do with some business practices and the way that they run and manage those companies. All the indications for the future are good.
The people I talk to are nervous if they are employed, and the people that are unemployed are angry.
Well,
we must move on, and we will to Mr. Mills. This is a question for you related to energy. How can we repair and build pipelines in a way that is not environmentally controversial so we can attain energy independence?
Well, first of all, we have to start building pipelines. Shipping oil by rail is inefficient, it's costly, and it's dangerous. Pipelines are the best way to do that. We should have built the Keystone XL pipeline. Certainly the fact that Congressman Nolan's good friend Mark Dayton has given the Enbridge folks for the Sandpiper pipeline the runaround, and they finally just threw up their hands and pulled the pipe out, and they're just going to run it down around the state of Minnesota. And again, we're losing tax revenue. Over in Aiken County, if that was built, their school systems would have got $3 million a year in tax revenue. Aiken County needed that revenue. No, we should have been doing a lot more. We should have been proactive, but we have an administration that Congressman Nolan's been supportive of that has been no, 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 time and time again, and it's been holding back our economy.
Thank you. Representative Nolan.
yep, and once again, I have championed pipelines, and I'll tell you why. I've looked at all the studies that have been done, and when you look at pipelines and compare them to the safety and the health and the hazards and the risk associated with rail transportation, associated with truck transportation, they're simply safer. We have a 107-year-old wooden bridge up here over the Rainy River in the Voyageurs National Park with oil trains lined up for miles. And we saw an incident where one of them went off the track. Thank God it wasn't an oil train. They're very, very dangerous. Having said that, there's a lot we can do in pipeline safety. As a matter of fact, I sponsored the amendment to require U.S. steel to be used in all pipelines. Why? Well, because it's a better quality steel, it is safer, and quite frankly, it also enhances mining in Minnesota. U.S. Steel is one of the largest manufacturers of tubular steel goods. So I'm working at every level. I support pipelines. We have lots of pipelines. They're safer than the alternatives. They're an integral part of our transportation network, and we have to continue to support it.
Mr. Mills, any final comment?
Well, other than the fact that Congressman Nolan had said he'd been in favor of the Sandpiper pipeline, but didn't like any of the routes that they had chosen to put it along. And so finally, if they couldn't have the route that they needed, where it ended up in the place, the terminal where it needed to be, they couldn't afford, or they didn't want to build the pipeline, because then they'd have to put it on rail cars and then ship it to the final destination. And that's one of the runarounds that they got, where they finally gave up and just went straight around the state of Minnesota geographically.
Thank you. We'll move on.
Well, 30 seconds. I know a little bit about the pipeline business. I was involved in a $60 million oil drilling venture in the Persian Gulf. I've sold tubular goods. And, you know, the fact is that the oil companies want to go the straightest line between 2 points. I'm a business guy. I understand that. But as a representative, your obligation is to take the safest route that's in the best interest of the people who will be affected by that. And oil companies and pipeline companies, they understand that. They rerouted some of the routes around some of the organic farms just south of here in Carleton County. There's nothing wrong with a representative of the people saying, look, this is not just about the shortest distance between 2 points. This is about what's good for the public and what's good for moving the goods that are being transported through the pipelines.
So they rerouted it around the entire state of Minnesota?
No, they rerouted around some organic farms just south of here.
Now, I'm pretty sure they're going right around the state of Minnesota. I'm pretty sure the Sandpiper Enbridge is not going through Minnesota anymore.
Gentlemen, the Affordable Care Act has already come up, and I don't have to tell either of you about the rising costs, the insurers who are bailing out, but also on the positive side, more people have insurance than ever before. Does the Affordable Care Act need to be replaced with something else, or how can it be improved? Representative Nolan, will begin with you.
Well, I've supported, I think, 60 attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, all of which, by the way, came up under closed rules with no opportunity to offer amendments and fix many of the things that need fixing in our healthcare system, quite frankly. I've supported it because it enabled 18 million people to get insurance that were unable to get insurance before. People with pre-existing conditions, people with children up to the age of 26. Things in there that made sure that women were treated equally. All good stuff. Is there more we can do? Oh, by all means. The free market solutions my opponent has advocated are the ones that are responsible for $800 wiki pens or whatever they call them. 1,000% increase in pharmaceutical prices. We need to make some changes, and we could start just by giving the government the authority to negotiate for pharmaceuticals. The Veterans does it, the Medicare administration does it, most nations around the world do it, but no, the Republicans have opposed us on that at every step of the way in the Congress. Yes, there's more that we can do, but there's 17 million people that still need insurance. But we got insurance for 18 million people, and I'm proud of that.
Mr. Mills?
Obamacare has been a disaster and has been a series of lies. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Everybody's going to save $2,500 and everybody's going to be healthier. Lie, lie, and lie. As a matter of fact, I call it the $5,500 lie because between co-pays, deductibles, and premiums, people are paying about $3,000 more, the $5,500 lie. Now we've had increases through MNsure, which are going to be up to 67%. Now, Congressman Nolan talked about the people that had been additionally insured. But when you have to go into high-cost plans with super high deductibles and co-pays, the people I talk to are afraid to use that insurance because the co-pays and the deductibles are so incredibly high, they can't afford to do so with sick kids. Families are suffering because of it. Obamacare and MNsure is to blame. And so, you know what? Just having insurance doesn't mean you have access to care. Because of Obamacare in the state of Minnesota, more people have less access to care than before it was implemented.
30-second rebuttals. I know I'm going to go out of order here, but Mr. Mills, let's stay right with you. What would you replace it with? What's the alternative?
Well, first of all, he wanted to talk about the EpiPen. The CEO of that company was a Democrat senator's daughter, and that was basically an abuse of patent laws, what they've done. That had nothing to do with the free market. But certainly I'm for solid social safety nets. I've always been for solid social safety nets such as MSHA, Minnesota Comprehensive Health Association. Due to Obamacare, it went out of business in 2014, the end of 2014. And if you had a pre-existing condition, you had reached your lifetime max, or you couldn't get insurance elsewhere, the state of Minnesota had a good, solid social safety net. On top of that, we have to have free market solutions, buying and selling insurance across state lines, price transparency, so when you go to the doctor's office, you actually know the price of the care you're receiving, making sure that we have tort reform, and then also better utilization of health savings accounts. You know, I actually ran a health plan, a self-insured ERISA plan for Mills Fleet Farm. Very, very proud of it. 6,000 of our employees and their family members at a $34 million plan. I live this, I know it, and with the direction that Congressman Nolan wants to take us to government-run single payer would be an absolute disaster. It would be more expensive, we'd get even less.
Congressman Nolan, is what Mr. Mills proposing, would it work, or what has to happen next?
Well, what Mr. Mills is doing in attacking the Affordable Care Act, he's ignoring the good things that it did, and he is attacking the things that it didn't get around to fixing. So if you're talking about what needs to be done in addition to the Affordable Care Act, there's a point to be heard there. And to be sure, we need to start negotiating for pharmaceutical prices. I quite frankly do favor a single-payer universal system, and your facts are just wrong. Every country that has employed it insures their people for less cost, and they get better outcomes. Medicare is a good example. It costs 3 or 4% to administer Medicare. The private sector, free market solution, everybody in this room's got a different policy, depending on your age and your medical condition and how many children you have. Can you imagine the administrative complexity of a free market solution where 300 million people all have a different plan? We're spending 30% of our health care dollars on costly administrative procedures in insurance company executive profits and salaries. It's got to stop. We got to fix it.
Thank you.
I think I just heard Congressman Nolan said he was against individuality, and that's against liberty.
I don't think I said that.
But everybody should have the same plan. Everybody should have the exact same plan.
David?
We will move on to the next question. And this is for, we'll start with Mr. Mills. Veterans. How can the Veteran Administration better serve our veterans?
Well, first of all, I talk to a lot of veterans. And I'll start out by saying very clearly and emphatically, I will never support anything that is not supported by the veteran services organizations themselves or the veterans. But when I talk to folks, and again, we have a disproportionately high number of veterans in Minnesota's 8th Congressional District, about 58,000. We don't have a VA hospital here. We have Korean War veterans and even some World War II veterans that are forced to drive in the middle of winter down icy roads, get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get to their appointments down in the Minneapolis-St. Paul VA. What they want actual choice, not choice where they have to call up and beg for it based on how far away they are from the nearest VA or how long of a waiting time. They want a card. This is what they're telling me. They want a card that gives them the same level of benefits that they can take anywhere, to any hospital, any clinic of their choosing. I'm talking about true VA choice that is entirely up to the veterans, where they get the same level of benefits and they can take it wherever they want to go. And that's what they're asking for, that's what they're telling me, and that's what I think we should give them.
Thank you. Representative Nolan, veterans.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we have a very profound, sacred obligation to take care of our veterans. They stood up. They were willing to put themselves in harm's way, serve and protect us. And we darn well better be there to serve and to protect them when they return. I think the choice idea is a wonderfully good idea. I supported that. I've supported pay increases for our soldiers. I've supported increased benefits for our veterans. I will continue to do that. My staff and I, every day, go to work on behalf of the veterans. I see John Marshall here earlier when the Defense Department decided they were going to do away with funeral services at our veterans' funerals. We stepped in and we turned that around to make sure that the honor guards were there for the men and women who served. Every day we help veterans get the benefits that they've earned, that they're entitled to, that they need. I get a sense we're in quite agreement on the importance of our veterans and doing everything we can to serve and protect them in the way that they serve and protect us.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, any rebuttal?
The only rebuttal is a simple one. There was the original, the first VA Accountability Act that would have made the people that work at the VA accountable to the veterans they're there to serve. Congressman Nolan voted against the first VA Accountability Act. He voted for a second VA Accountability Act that actually gave more protection to the people that were neglecting and abusing our veterans to the veterans themselves. I don't think Congressman Nolan has a voting record to support his rhetoric.
Well, you know, we've had a civil service protection system in this country for a long time to avoid partisan political jobs being handed out and given out throughout the country. The simple truth is that 2,600 VA employees have been fired in the last couple of years for not doing their jobs. But if you're going to fire someone, you can't go and fire a whistleblower. You can't go and fire someone because you don't like their politics. You can't go and fire people who are doing a good job because you don't like them. So, yes, we are in agreement. Nobody in any employment of the government should be allowed to keep their job if they're not doing their job and getting their job done. But I'm not about to dispense with, you know, the protections that have been there that are not onerous. In fact, 2,600 VA employees have been fired in the last couple of years, even with those protections that are there in place, and I'm going to insist on keeping them for a number of reasons. Number one is they're good essential protections. Number two, the VA employs more veterans than any other agency of the federal government.
Thank you.
And I don't want someone firing veterans because they don't like their look.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, moving on. With student loan debts skyrocketing, some are pushing for free college this election. The question is, what can Washington do to provide equitable, quality public education for all. Congressman Nolan, we'll begin with you.
Well, I support a free 4 years of public education. I think that the money that we invest in education is the best money that our society or any society ever invests. Where does the money come from? You know, I've been passionate about ending these wars of choice. Let's take the war in Iraq, $3 trillion. For one of those trillion, we could have graduated every kid in America from vocational or college debt-free. For another of those $1 trillion, we talked about transportation. We could have rebuilt our bridges that are falling down, the roads that are crumbling. We could have rebuilt our infrastructure. For another one of those $1 trillion, you know what we could have done? We could have had some fun. You know, we could have helped find a cure for cancer or Alzheimer's. We could have put a solar panel on everybody's roof. But be mindful of the fact we still have $2 trillion going forward that we are obligated to, and that's taking care of the veterans who served, but who lost arms, who lost legs, who suffered nerve damage, and in some cases brain damage. And that is something we are obligated to. So it's a matter of priorities. What's important to you? To me, nation building abroad where we're not wanted, don't belong, don't know what we're doing, is nowhere near as important as educating our children, building our infrastructure, finding a cure for cancer, finding a cure for Alzheimer's, finding alternative energies for this country and our future.
Mr. Mills.
Well, I talk to a lot of young people that are in college and a lot of people that are recently graduated. They have a mountain of student debt, and they're not quite sure what they got for it other than a piece of paper. I'm in favor of a student's bill of rights. A student's bill of rights that when you enroll in a college, that when you enroll in a major, you are guaranteed those classes that you need to graduate within 4 years. That there's no prerequisites, there's no waiting list, there's no jump through the hoops. And also, when you transfer from one college to another, you don't lose credits. If you go from one accredited university or one accredited college to another, you're not losing credits in the process. And almost more importantly than that is complete transparency from what that college spends their money on. Does the money go to professors? And I submit that it doesn't. I don't see professors driving Ferraris. But yet we have all these administrators and we have all these great buildings and all these other programs that don't go into educating our children that they're spending money on. The people that are taking out these huge student loans, first of all, they shouldn't be, the college shouldn't cost that much, and the way to rein it in is to make sure that people have price transparency. They know what they're paying for, and then they can choose a college that has the best outcomes, but for the least amount of money. We should make college much more competitive.
Congressman Nolan, 30-second rebuttal.
Well, you know, I don't know what it was like in Florida where you went to college, but I can tell you this. When I went to the University of Minnesota, working my way through, by the way, roofing houses and working as a Teamster at United Parcel Service, you couldn't always get into the class that you wanted, and that's just reality. It'd be nice if everybody could have everything they wanted, but if you were patient, you could finally get into the class. So I don't know what you're talking about here. And then to suggest that any credit anywhere should be transferable anywhere, credits from Trump University should be transferred to UMD and Scholastica and Superior Community College. The thought is ridiculous. It's abhorrent.
Well, what I did learn in business school was that if you're going to sell a product, you should deliver on the product that you're selling. So yeah, if you're accepted into that major, you should be able to get into classes. And if you're not able to get into classes that you have paid to get into that program, that's fraud. And you know what? I don't think that that is right, because I have seen student after student that have a 4-year college degree takes 5.5 years, and that just adds to the student debt. We need to streamline things and make sure that a 4-year degree only lasts 4 years.
Let me tell you why it takes many kids 5 and 6 years to get through college, okay? When I was a kid, it cost 1 hour's daily wages to pay for your college education. Today, it takes 17 hours of daily wages to pay for your college education. My generation, we were able to work our way through college because our parents stepped up and financed our universities, and we could graduate from college debt-free and work our way through the university. That's simply not possible today. Kids have to work longer, they have to work harder, they have to pay more for their education, and that is not good for them, it's not good for our economy, it's not good for our country, and we need to do the same for the future generation, what our generation did for this. Make a college technical education affordable so that they can graduate debt-free and get fully engaged into the economic well-being of our society.
And you're never going to do that until you cut the cost of college.
David?
We will move on. This question is for Mr. Mills.
Oh, thank you.
Guns. How do our gun laws need to be changed, or do our gun laws need to be changed, and if so, in what way?
Well, first of all, let's talk about Congressman Nolan's most recent demonstration on the House floor, in which he took part of shutting down Congress for 2 days. I think it was on the 22nd and the 23rd, shut down Congress for 2 days to demonstrate against our Second Amendment rights. And they called it no fly, no buy. But we had terrorist attacks in Chattanooga, we had terrorist attacks in San Bernardino and Orlando. None of those people were on the no-fly list. It wouldn't have prevented a single act of terrorist violence in the United States. Matter of fact, even France has some of the strictest gun control in the world, and their terrorists over there seem to have no problems getting guns, whether it's the Charlie Hebdo attack or the Paris attack at the Bataclan. So we know that if we're going to really try to prevent terrorism, terrorist watch list, no-fly, no-buy legislation doesn't prevent it. All it would do is restrict our Second Amendment rights. Rather than having a terrorist watch list and using that to restrict people's Second Amendment rights just arbitrarily, we don't know who puts that on there, rather than having that terrorist watch list, why don't we have a terrorist investigate list? Or better yet, a terrorist arrest list, rather than abridging our Second Amendment rights. And the other thing of no fly, no buy is that not only did it violate the Second Amendment, it violated the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. It was entirely unconstitutional.
Thank you. Representative Nolan.
Well, first of all, I'm at a loss to understand why anyone would want to allow someone who is on the terrorist watch list should be allowed to walk into any gun shop, legally or illegally, and buy all the guns and weapons that they want after they've already been put on a list that says they are part of a group that wants to kill Americans. It's just beyond my comprehension how someone... we have laws in this nation now that prohibit violent criminals from buying guns. Why shouldn't we have people dedicated to killing Americans not have to comply with the same requirements? That's what that was all about. If you're not allowed to fly, you ought not to be able to go in and buy guns when you've been put on a list that says you belong to a group that wants to kill Americans.
Mr. Mills.
Well, the question is who's putting them on the list. We don't know who's on the list, how to get on the list, how to get off the list, and what bureaucrat particularly is putting their name on the list. So solely by putting your name on a list, you lose your constitutional rights. We've had members of Congress, members of the Senate, members of the media that have been on that list. And so rather than taking away our Second Amendment rights, if we know who has taken a vow to kill Americans, rather than taking away our rights, our God-given liberties, we should go and investigate and arrest those people, not disenfranchise these people out here.
Well, first of all, I've always supported the Second Amendment. I always will. I think I was 19 or 20 before I had my first chicken and roast beef. We grew up on venison and duck and fish and wildlife. That's something that's important to all of us. And I don't know of anyone, quite frankly, who suggests that we do away with our Second Amendment rights. Having said that, we have always had any one of a number of gun safety measures, one of which is not allowing violent criminals to go in and to buy guns. In my judgment, we should put people who belong to groups that have proposed violence against America and are not allowed to fly. And by the way, if someone does make a mistake getting on that list, and believe me, our intelligence people, they study these things very hard, very carefully. They are committed to providing safe protection for the American people. They do their very best. Do they make an occasional mistake? Of course they do. But there's a way to get off that list, and people that have been put on it accidentally because of names that are similar to someone else, they get off the list.
Congressman Nolan went way over time. I just want two quick points. First of all, Congressman Nolan is the only person I've ever met that says he's for your Second Amendment, but yet gets an F rating, a failing grade from the National Rifle Association. And they're not a bunch of people in $2,000 suits, because I go to their banquets and they're wearing Carhartts. That's the first point. The second point is that you said there's a way to get off that list. I hope somebody somewhere is able to educate the American public that if they ever find their name on that list, maybe you can put that on your website. How do you get off the terrorist watch list if you're, or the no-fly, no-buy, or I should say the no-fly list, if they're ever on there? I can't figure out a way how anybody that would be erroneously put on other than a public uproar or the media causing a sensation over it.
Well,
Is there a mechanism?
My staff and I would be glad to show you how to get off the list.
Thank you. We must move on.
Please, no,
Please.
please. I will take that. Please put that
No,
on
I'm
your
serious.
Put that on your website.
I'm not going to sit down here and do it right now. We got a
But
debate going on.
do you know?
But if you want to meet me out in the back afterwards here, I'll show you how you can get off the
But
list.
you know the
Gentlemen, we
process
must
to get off the
move
list?
on.
Because I don't.
Yeah, no,
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, there is a process.
Please, Chuck, we'll
Apparently, it's
move
little
on.
known.
Move on to the federal minimum wage, and the question is whether you think the federal minimum wage should be increased, and what sort of impact might that have. Congressman Nolan, you first.
Well, I support an increase in the minimum wage. Again, you know, perspective is so important on all this stuff. It was so easy for my generation to go to college and get an education, enjoy the blessings and prosperity and opportunities that flowed from that. They tell us that for the minimum wage today to be what it was when I was a kid, it'd have to be like 16, 17 bucks an hour. So why shouldn't we give to today's generation the same blessings, the same benefits that my generation enjoyed? And the simple truth is, people who are making 7 bucks an hour, you raise their salary to 15 bucks an hour, they're not investing it in Wall Street. They're spending it on Main Street. And so it increases business all up and down Main Street, at the restaurants, at the hardware store, with the contractors, with the builders, with the tradesmen. It actually boosts the economy. What's happening in this country is the rich are getting rich in degrees unparalleled in human history. We need to look for and find ways to rebuild the middle class that became a model for the world. I've seen it in my international business. People wanted to become like us. We're losing our way. We got to get back to rebuilding this middle class. And in my judgment, one of the ways, one of many, to start with, is by raising the minimum wage to a living wage.
Mr. Mills on minimum wage?
Well, first of all, we're talking, the question was about the federal minimum wage.
That's right.
You know what? There's a different economy in New York City. There's a different economy in Seattle. There's a different economy in Los Angeles and Miami. Those economies don't exist in our part of Minnesota. So I'm not saying I'm against a state minimum wage. I'm saying I'm against a federal minimum wage because $15 an hour would put a lot of people out of business all over our part of Minnesota. You raise those wages then to $15, and all of a sudden the kid, the first-time job, he gets replaced with an automated ordering machine at McDonald's. And that's what happens. They get replaced by automation, and those young people, those first jobs, and they're designed to be stepping stone jobs. And if we're talking about a minimum wage trying to be a living wage, that goes back to my point that this is the worst economy, or third or fourth worst economy of all times. What we need to be doing is talking about the maximum wage, not the minimum wage. But a federal minimum wage would put a lot of people out of work in our part of Minnesota. And if there's a state minimum wage, well, that's something that we have to look at based on our various economies all across our part of Minnesota. But no, a federal minimum wage would be a disaster. State minimum wage, yeah.
Congressman Nolan, a 30-second rebuttal, and I'd ask both candidates to please respect our time limits.
Well, first of all, I saw some stats here just the other day that said that the increase in income for the average person went up almost $4,000 or $5,000, the single largest increase in generations. So many people in our economy are doing well. Those states, those communities that have increased the minimum wage to $15 an hour are doing well. To have each state with its own and different wage requirements creates unnecessary competition to the advantage or disadvantage of others. We are a diverse nation, but we are a nation. And it doesn't matter where you grow up, where you live. If you go in and you put in an honest day's labor, you should be able to entitled to a living wage from that work. That's what this is really all about. Respect for labor and respect for the work that people do and making sure they get paid for the work that they do.
Mr. Mills, final 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's really my really quick rebuttal. You know, he's talking about one nation. Well, there's something called the Bill of Rights. There's something called the 10th Amendment. The states have the rights to set the minimum wage, and the federal government doing it is an unconstitutional overreach. That's my response.
Well, the courts have ruled that it is constitutional, so I don't know what you're reading, but...
I read the actual 10th Amendment.
I'm not talking about the 10th Amendment, I'm talking about the court's interpretation of it, and they have interpreted
Yep.
that a federal minimum wage is indeed legal and appropriate action for the federal government of the United States to take.
And they've interpreted a lot of stuff very broadly, but it's
Well,
still
that's their
written in
job.
plain.
That's their job.
Gentlemen.
It's still written in plain English.
Gentlemen, we'll move on to another question. Thank you, and if the audience would please refrain from making noise, we'll make more progress here. The question is related to Medicare and Social Security. With baby boomers enrolling at record levels, how can we sustain Medicare and Social Security? And this is for Mr. Mills.
Oh, thank you. First of all, Obamacare has taken $716 billion out of Medicare. And here's what it means to the people of the 8th Congressional District. We have 81,000 residents in the 8th Congressional District that are enrolled in Medicare Advantage. Based on projections from when Obamacare was enacted in 2017, they will have a 17% cut to their benefits, which will, in essence, be a $1,840 cut. $1,840 cut to their benefits. The first thing we can do is to replace and repeal Obamacare and return that $716 billion back to Medicare where it belongs. The other part is that, you know what, we've made promises to our seniors, and a promise made is a promise kept. And we have to do everything we can to keep those promises.
Thank you. Representative Nolan.
Well, first of all, Social Security, Medicare, two of the most important things this country has ever done to provide income security, health care, life, longevity for the people who've worked so hard all their lives and earned those benefits. The last time we debated on this issue in the last stage, we didn't talk about Obamacare, we talked about Social Security and Medicare. And in response to that question, you said all options are on the table. And that was in response to what you would do about Social Security and Medicare. Now, you've talked about some of the people I associate with. I noticed you just had Paul Ryan out here to help you raise money. Before that, you had John Boehner out here. They are the chief advocates for privatizing Social Security. They want to turn Social Security over Wall Street. You want to talk about disasters? Turn our senior citizens' hard-earned benefits, to those gamblers on Wall Street? Turn Medicare back over to the insurance industry? Both would be a disaster. There are ways to protect Social Security and Medicare. One would be to lift the cap on income, remove the cap, and suddenly the system is good again. Why are you and others taking two great programs that have lifted more people out of poverty, given them income security, given them the health care they need? Why are you so anxious when one of them is good for 20 years, the other is good for 30 years, according to the projections? Why are you so anxious to turn this over to the Wall Street billionaire gamblers and to the insurance industry? These are earned benefits. These people are entitled to them. And under my watch, there is no way that they will ever be taken away from them or turned over to any Wall Street billionaires or insurance companies.
Congressman Nolan, with all due respect, that's a lie. I sat right here on this stage and I watched that videotape several times. What I said was that both houses of Congress, both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, not shunting it off to a Simpson Bowles-style committee, have to come together and put all their ideas on the table, have to put all their cards on the table, have an honest discussion. But the first condition that I laid out last time on this debate is that it be bipartisan. So if it's a bipartisan solution, because we can't do for Social Security and Medicare what we did to the American people with Obamacare, it has to be bipartisan. I said that on this stage. So if you believe that yourself or members of your party would be in favor of a privatized system for Social Security, then that would be the only way that would be true. Other than that, it's intellectually inconsistent to say that I'm for privatizing Social Security.
Well, I read the transcript too, and you said all options are on the table.
My first condition is bipartisan.
You said all options are on the table.
As long as it's bipartisan.
And I don't care if it's bipartisan, nonpartisan, some weird partisanship. I am not about to privatize Social Security and Medicare. I don't care where it comes from.
And you know what I'm for? I'm for open and honest dialogue that's going to fix the problem, because I don't know what numbers you're looking at, but the CBO numbers, it looks like Medicare could be insolvent as soon as 2023, and depending on how we're doing, it's either 2034 or 2033 that Social Security is going to be on the ropes or facing insolvency. So we have a bigger problem, and just kicking the can down the road, saying, oh, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, it's not a problem, we can keep going on this course. No, we need to fix it now, but it has to be a bipartisan solution. And yes, I am for an open and honest dialogue, and when I go to Washington, D.C., I will reach across the aisle and work with Democrats to try to fix it.
Well, you know what, I have
another question. We're very close here to the end of our forum.
Yep,
So,
and David, just for your information, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit with due respect to the time. Yes. Gentlemen, with consideration to the Iran deal, Guantanamo, and more, how can the U.S. develop a stronger and smarter foreign policy? Representative Nolan, we'll begin with you.
Well, first of all, the Iran nuclear deal was a victory for diplomacy. Without that deal, Iran was positioned to develop 12 nuclear weapons within a matter of a couple of weeks. They now no longer have that capacity. So we avoided a war, we avoided a conflict, we've assured that Iran will not have nuclear weapons going forward into the future. Others have proposed that we do nothing, other than perhaps have to use the military option and get ourselves involved in another long, costly war in the Middle East. I'm proud of that accomplishment and what it's accomplished. We avoided a war. And by the way, the military option is still on the table. If they cheat, if they don't honor the terms of the agreement, that option is still there. But the good news is we kept them from getting 12 nuclear weapons, which threaten the survival of the world, not to mention another costly war in the Middle East.
Mr. Mills.
We had their hands behind their backs. The sanctions were working. They were squirming, and that's why they went to the negotiating table. It was them that had to come to us. Otherwise, if they were really, truly on the brink of a nuclear weapon, which I respectfully disagree with Congressman Nolan, there's no way that they would have come. We've played this game with North Korea where we negotiate, and then finally they show up, after sanctions are relieved with a nuclear weapon before. Iran is now on a glide path to a nuclear weapon. They will be a nuclear threshold state. We have given them $150 billion in money, in hard assets that it's fungible. It's going to go to fund terrorists. As a matter of fact, it's already proven to go to fund terrorists. And then they had 4 American hostages. I'm going to call them hostages. And we paid ransom. Nobody can say it wasn't ransom. $400 million that was flown in 500 euro notes, and it was a quid pro quo for those released. 500 euro notes is what international drug traffickers and terrorists use to trade in their goods. And so that's what we've done. We have empowered Iran. And not only that, and we've talked about, well, if they cheat, they have been cheating. Part of that agreement was them stopping testing ballistic missiles. Guess what? They're testing ballistic missiles. They are a nuclear threshold state, and they are already breaking that agreement.
Congressman Nolan?
Well, part of the agreement, they had to dispose of 98% of all of their nuclear-grade fissile material. There's unprecedented, which they have done. They had to pour concrete into their centrifuges. We have unprecedented inspections, including cameras, 24/7 at every one of their nuclear sites. And if, in fact, they do cheat, we'll know. And we can then decide what we want to do about it. In the meantime, we didn't give them $150 billion. We didn't give them a dime as a result of that agreement. That was money that the other 6 countries had been holding in their banks that belonged to the Iranians. And conversations with the Secretary of State recently, so far, we've been able to account that they've gotten back $3 of those $1 billion. The only thing you're right on is that the sanctions worked. We had them on their back, and we used every lever that we could to make sure that they would not have nuclear weapons. And I don't know where you're getting your information. I've sat in on the classified briefings, and there have been public statements to the effect that if we did not have this agreement, they were able to move forward in a matter of several weeks to develop as many as 12 nuclear weapons.
Mr. Mills, you're entitled to the final 30 seconds on this issue.
Yeah, the inspection regimes are incomplete because they get to inspect and self-report a lot of their own facilities, and also the IAEA and other regulatory bodies have to give them notice before those inspections go forward. And Iran continues to be a belligerent nation. They have not been brought into the fold. This deal has done nothing other than embolden them and make us weaker.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about stopping the spread of nuclear weapons, which not only threaten the peace, but perhaps threaten our very survival here on Earth. And I don't know what's going to happen 50 years from now. That'll be for the next generation to decide. But I'm grateful for the fact that we have kept Iran from getting nuclear weapons.
David?
We should be going to our concluding remarks. So if I am not sure which order we should proceed with.
Congressman Nolan will go first, and then Mr. Mills will have the final say.
We have 2 minutes each from
minutes
each of
each,
these
yes.
gentlemen to share with us their concluding remarks. Representative Nolan.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody for participating here, and thank Mr. Mills. As was pointed out earlier, this is an opportunity for people to see the difference between who we want to send to Washington, D.C. And I'd like to start with a perspective that I briefly mentioned, and that is the last generation was an incredible generation in this country. We doubled the life expectancy. We created a middle class that is unparalleled and became a model for the world. We saw liberties, and prosperities, and opportunities, really, for many in this country, unparalleled anywhere in human history. And now we have a new generation of politicians that want to roll all that back. They want to roll back the policies that gave us water we could drink and air we could breathe and the economies that built this middle class. And the fact is we've lost our way. We are seeing a situation where a powerful super millionaire, billionaire class is getting richer in degrees unparalleled in human history. As I said, the middle class is getting crushed. The great opportunities that we enjoyed in our generation are not being passed on to the next generation. And that's really what this election contest is all about, is who are you for? Do you want to change the political system that allowed the rich and the powerful to fix our politics and fix our economy for their benefit at the expense of the middle class? Do you want to put an end to these trade deals that have moved so many of our jobs and our manufacturing overseas? This is all about who you're for. This is all about who you're for. I hope I've made that clear who I'm for, the working men and women of this country. That's why I'm here today. That's why I ask for the continued support of the people in Minnesota's 8th Congressional District so I can continue to go to Washington and work for them and be their champion and represent their interests and get this country back on track again.
Thank you. Mr. Mills.
I met my wife at the Nisswa's JC's street dance. She was a divorced mother of 3. And I learned from her that she had to, at wintertime, turn the thermostat down to 60 degrees in order to keep her monthly budget on track. I also learned that she had choices every week of whether to go to the grocery store or whether to put fuel in her car. And as I go around our part of Minnesota, I'm hearing that story more and more and more. It's the same story over and over again, without a doubt. We have people that are stuck in the middle. They're trying so hard to get ahead, but they can't. But they're making too much to qualify for benefits. and they feel like they're stuck in the middle and they're getting hosed. And that's almost universal. Whether it's at a gate greet, whether it's on Main Street, whether it's talking to anybody anywhere, there is so much anger and frustration all over our part of Minnesota. And people are waking up. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. If nothing changes, nothing changes. We have economically blighted towns all throughout our part of Minnesota. We have an epidemic of drug abuse that's quite literally killing our friends and neighbors and our children's friends. Something has to change. I would love to have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and represent you to be part of that change. I will fight for the people that are stuck in the middle and give them a pathway to get ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this very civil and this very thoughtful conversation. This concludes our program.
Well, I don't know if we'll do this anymore, but